Vamos a debatir a continuación con Anthony Bernard-Sasges, economista en Oxford Economics. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to Negocios TV.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What are the five categories used in the Global Cities Index to evaluate cities?
Yeah, we consider 5 different types of metrics in the index. We look at economics metrics, human capital metrics, quality of life, environment, and governance to give us a more of a holistic view of a city's attractiveness and competitiveness.
Surprise, why did Sydney and Boston, for example, enter into the top 10 in the 2025 ranking?
Yeah, I would say that overall, the rankings have been relatively consistent since last year, which is interesting in its own right, because it's obviously been a very challenging year for cities across the world. There's been a lot of economic uncertainty, a lot of discussions around quality of life changes in cities. But cities like Sydney and Boston were able to sort of enter the top 10 because they sort of maintain strong economic outlooks. They have strong quality of life and human capital. Overall, all of the top cities, really down to the top 50 and top 100, tend to be relatively strong, right? We have 1,000 cities in this index, which means that the top 100 are still very strongly performing cities.
How does the report classify cities into different archetypes? And can you name 2 examples?
Sure. So this year, for the first time in our analysis, we've developed a set of city archetypes. This typology allows us to group cities on common characteristics across metrics in the index, which then allows us to identify common themes and opportunities for business leaders and policymakers interested in these cities. So 2 examples would be the global leaders and the sustainable cities. So Madrid, for example, is a global leader. We've defined global leaders based on the size of their economies, the importance of their finance and business sectors, the number of universities and corporate headquarters they have. And then sustainable cities are cities that tend to have more of a focus on reducing emissions, cities that have sort of the policy in place to adapt to climate change in the future. So we have a range of different archetypes that cover cities both in the developed and the developing world to be able to sort of group these cities and identify common themes they have.
Anthony, what future trends does the report say will shape the development of cities?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of things we cover in this report that are, top of mind for business leaders and policymakers in cities right now. One of the big ones we talk about in the report is generative AI. Obviously, that's been a very important theme in the last couple of years, and we've identified that the global leaders of all of the different cities that we have, those cities tend to be best positioned to benefit from generative AI. They have large, they have very large professional services sectors that are able to benefit from these sorts of advancements, whereas other cities that may rely more on manufacturing or extraction sectors won't be able to see the same benefits. Another trend that we've noticed relates to trade and deglobalization, obviously another big topic around the world right now. And obviously a lot of these very large cities are very reliant on international trade. They rely on being able to import and export goods and services. And so though that is potentially a trend that we see that is maybe a bit more of a challenge for some of these largest cities.
Anthony, why aren't there any Spanish cities into the top 10?
Yeah, Madrid is the highest scoring Spanish city at 44th. I would say, the difference between the top 10 and the top 50 is very, very small. We have 1,000 cities in this index. So when we rank them on their scores. But if you look at the difference in scores between the top 10 cities and the top 50 cities, it is very, very small. Madrid overall does quite well in the human capital and economics categories. It has several universities. It's got a very large economy and strong workforce. But it potentially lacks a little bit of the maybe quality of life that the really top cities have, or potentially it suffers from environmental issues that some of the other cities don't, with the sort of the heat waves that a lot of cities in Spain face during the summer months.
Okay, Anthony Bernard-Sasges, economist on Oxford Economist, thank you for your time, for coming to Negocios TV.
Thank you very much.